welcome my amazing friend, Jolene. First and foremost, like when we met, I want to say like we instantly connected.
Yeah, 100%.
It was through corporate America, the wild industry, and then COVID and all that stuff. And I would definitely want to take a dive deep into that, but because I want to share what an incredible human being you are. Not only did like we connect in so many levels, but I feel like every time I see you, it's like
I know.
we don't lose time.
No, we don't. We're like sparklers.
Yeah. And then like if I see you at the shop, I like skirt, and then I'm like, "What's up, girl?" And then so it's always so
I'm your
awesome.
lifelong personal florist. Like she just drives up. Here you go, done, ready to go.
Exactly. Yeah. And even when you're not there.
Yeah.
That's the thing about you, like your staff, they're so awesome. Everybody there. And like you send the message in right in and like, hey, so-and-so is coming. So I don't even have to say like, hey, no. They're like, hey, Jolene. And that's the thing right there.
Yeah.
That's so crucial, I think, in business, especially in a local business. And Bay Park, it's just such a tight-knit community. They're like, oh, yeah, Jolene told me you're coming. Like, she already, she knows what you like. This is what we did. Do you love it? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely one thing that I enforce with the girls. As soon as like a message comes through, like I screenshot and I send it to them. Hey, make sure da-da-da. And I know what a lot of my customers like, if you like it more of the boho style, if you like it more of like purple shades, I'm going to also add that and make sure you emphasize on this because this is what they like. So it's adding that personal touch and also, what you like. So it's more customized.
Right.
That's with most of our stuff. But I do like to make sure that if they're reaching out to me, they're going to get the white glove service from also my employees.
Just like you're there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But I get too excited about your flowers. But let's take it back a bit. Like, where did you grow up?
Okay.
Like all that. I want to know like the knit and grit.
So I grew up in Point Loma, Ocean Beach area. My family's from Chino, California. But when I was 6 months old, my mom moved here with my brothers, and I'm the youngest of three. And we moved to Point Loma, grew up there, went to Cabrillo, Correa, Point Loma High. When I was 12 years old, because my brothers were skaters and they would always skate over the hill, and they're like, Mom, there's this cool place over the hill and kids are everywhere, and it was Ocean Beach. And so
oh my God,
we ended up moving to OB when I was 12 years old to Bermuda Avenue. And so that was it. Growing up there along just 92106 and 107 was the best. Even though I wasn't able to go anywhere because my mom had me on lockdown. But
you had brothers, right?
I had brothers, and my house was so full all the time. Boys all the time. I always had to put lip gloss on, like, oh my God, who's gonna be here? You're like a teenage girl.
Yeah.
And so I was just always in my room. My room was clean, and I was just like, just listening to music, doing what 15-year-old girls do.
Yeah.
But as soon as I turned 18, I was gone. I moved across the bridge to Pacific Beach. Wasn't very far. But I went over the bridge because all the guys that grew up in Ocean Beach, Point Loma, I grew up with them. So of course I'm not going to date any of these guys.
Right.
And I was already working at a flower shop. And when I was 18, so it was in Pacific Beach, and that's when I went over there. So
would you say that's your passion is flowers?
Yeah, but what's funny is I didn't think it was flowers initially. I thought it was just plants, greenery. Like I didn't know the definition between it all because my grandfather, so every summer we would go to my grandparents' house in Chino, and he owned a ranch, and it was 7.5, 8 acres, and he had every animal on there, peacocks, roosters, guinea hens, like rabbits, everything you can think of. He also had all the fruits on there, like grapefruit, lemon, apples, walnuts, peaches, and we just lived off the land all day long, eating, snacking on the fruits and everything. It was just a lot of fun. But he owned a landscape business, Marquez Landscape. And so we would do ride-alongs with him.
Oh my God.
So when we would do these ride-alongs with him, my grandmother would pack her cooler with all these little, burritos, like chorizo burritos in aluminum, just stacking it up. And we'd get in the van with my grandpa, and we'd just do these ride-alongs. So we'd get to like watch him, cut grass and shape the plants and everything. And that to me was just so cool. So growing up, missing and loving the smell of fresh cut grass and the smell of this wet cement and feeling and smelling cold soil, like certain shaded soil, like it does something for me. Like it's just, so I thought I wanted to be an architectural landscaper. Where when they build the home, they're already doing the layout of the landscape, what plants, all of that. But so I didn't think that there was a difference between a flower shop and that, right?
Right.
I just didn't know. So when I was driving down Sports Arena West Point Loma with my friend Joey, see this flower shop. It's around Valentine's Day. And I hung out the window. I'm like, you guys hiring? And then they're like, yeah, come back. And I'm like, oh, go back.
Oh my God.
They said, do you have experience? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, well, how hard is it? Right.
Yeah.
And then she's like, okay, make a bouquet. So then I just started grabbing flowers and building a bouquet. And one of the girls that was already in the middle of helping a customer, she's got this bouquet in her hands and still building. And then he said, what she's baking, I want that one. So then they took that one. He bought it. I didn't know that was a knack. I thought that was he just liked the colors. But it turned out that what I had was natural. And it took me a while to understand that until I was hiring people. I'm like, how do you not know? You don't put the carnation with that. You don't do this, So there was a lot of things that came naturally that I didn't appreciate or understand until later on. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so growing up like that, along the beach and close to nature, just free-spirited, that's just who I am in my natural roots. So like what a lot of people call me is like a bougie hippie, like I like all the nice things and pretty things.
Yeah, but you're a beach girl.
I'm very beach girl. I'm very laid back. I'm very I'm always in my sandals or something, so it's, I'll take that. It's fine.
And then how old were you when you had your babies?
25.
25.
So I was 25 when I had Mia, and then 26 I had Adrian. Yeah. So I was at the flower shop. Like for me, because I wasn't able to go out growing up, I just had this I wanted to break free. So the only way I could be free, get a job.
Right.
15 years old, I'm working. First job was Wet Seal.
Oh, God.
I'm at Wet Seal.
I love Wet Seal.
Oh, my God. I was it was the coolest place to work when you were in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And so I was at Wet Seal, and I remember fixing the hangers and you had to make sure everything's
Yeah.
I took pride in every job. Girl, I was at Green Burrito, working at Green Burrito, and my visor, everything had to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm upright on my cash register, and I'm cleaning the salsa bar. I took pride in everything, but I don't know what it is or why I did that, but they made me always a manager or a supervisor at a young age, and because I think I took on that sense of responsibility. And so I was supervising at Green Burrito, and then shortly after, I was 17, 18, found the flower shop job. I just wanted to work, fill in all the blanks of my day, right? So if there was part-time over at Green Burrito, I'm going to fill in the other half at another job. And there was a point where I was working 3-4 jobs because I just loved working. Yeah. And I was always helping my mom, I didn't get to go to college for architectural landscaping because now I'm a manager of 2 places and I got a responsibility. And that's one thing that I pass on to my kids is don't get a job at a young age. Go to school, go to college, because once you get that responsibility put on you, you feel this obligation, and then you neglect yourself.
Do it, right?
Right. And so anyway, going back to that, I stayed there until I got the job at the flower shop, and I stayed working at 2 to 3 flower shops at a time because I was managing one in OB and then the one in PB, and then part-time once a week at another one. And when I realized, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a child, I can't do this. First time mom, I'm thinking, I threw away all my bathing suits. I can't wear a 2-piece. I'm going to be a mom. I can't wear short skirts or shorts anymore. All these things, I'm thinking you're going to be a mom. And so, but security was the biggest thing that a flower shop did not have. No retirement, no benefits, health insurance, nothing like that. So my bank, every Friday, I would go to cash my check from the flower shops. San Diego County Credit Union, they would always say, you need to come work here. Oh, I had my favorite tellers. Yeah. And then finally I was like, hi, are you guys hiring?
I came to apply.
Yeah. And that was the good old days where you could walk in and you're talking with the manager and they're like, you know what? I like you. Yeah. It's a handshake. Come start Monday.
Totally.
Miss those days. It was so, you can just shoot the shit with them and, oops, sorry.
No, you're fine.
And if they like you, it's come in on Monday, be ready, and that was it. I got in there. I took a $2 cutback because I never liked working at places where a manager comes in, but you, as the employee, is teaching them everything, how to do things. Right. And you're like, if you're a manager, you should know this, right? So I wanted to earn my stripes in there. So I started off $2 less, started off as a teller instead of going in as management, and worked my way up. Because I knew I want to know all of this from the bottom up. So if my employee comes to me, I want to be able to help them.
Right. And do you feel that your grandfather's business, like having that leadership, and are you the only girl? You're the only
I'm
girl?
the only girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would assume that if mom's away, you're the one that's keeping the house put together, right?
My mom was manic, like nervous energy, constantly cleaning. I remember growing up watching my mom. We'd go to somebody's house and she's washing the dishes, cleaning their stuff up. Like she was just always doing that. And I remember being like embarrassed, like, Mom, what are you doing? Like, relax. She would never sit and relax with us. She just would always just, and still to this day, 76 years old, you cannot sit her ass down. Like my mom is just, she's just wired that way.
But you're wired that way.
I see it now.
I've never.
Yeah.
Ever. Anytime. If I can't even pass by and say hello, you're in the fridge, you're this, you're da, and here, and oh yeah, hi.
I know how to walk and talk.
Yeah. So I think that's part of the reason why that created that persona in you, in always being busy 100%. And always go, because you saw it in your mom, and then your grandfather had his own business, you know? So I think with that mixed together is probably what
I 100%.
Yeah.
My grandfather would get up, and I remember this. I just loved my childhood going over there every summer. My grandmother would wake up. It was just really cool. So we'd get up. My grandfather would get up at 4 a.m. Mm-hmm. He'd go outside, feed all the animals on the farm, on the ranch. He's taking care of all of them. My grandmother would get up, make his breakfast while he's doing that. And then she'd also warm up our socks over the stove so we didn't step on the cold wood floor. She'd warm up our socks. She'd have all of our food lay out. And I remember like the juice, our milk, he always had to have Entenmann's and his chorizo and like just everything. And she just would have it made for him. He was a man of very, very little words. You rarely heard him talk or have conversation or laughing. He was just very serious, but he knew how to handle the home. And so he'd come in, get his food, get it in the cooler, and he'd leave for the day at 6 a.m. to go start his day. And he'd drive off. And I remember playing all day long. Then you'd see my grandmother run to the blinds. She'd look out. She'd go to the bathroom, put a little beer on her hands. I don't know what that was. And she'd pat her hair down, put some hot pink lipstick on. Aww. My grandpa's coming home now. And he'd come in and he'd say, hey, Boppy, you know, that was like childhood little pet names for us. And he just took care of, he'd open up the fridge, look. She never said, we need this, we need that. He would just open the fridge, scan it, and then go to the store, come back. It was drive-through dairy marts, you know, so milk and eggs would drive through. And he just, like that strong sense of provider, a man taking care of the home, and seeing my grandmother. And then at 12 noon, my grandmother would have us lay down, we'd read a paragraph of the Bible. Nap time. She'd make me and my brother, Stephen, a little thing of sardines, right? We'd have a little can, the little mini forks, our lemonade in a mason jar, and like snacks in a Ziploc bag, rolled up in a paper bag. We'd sit at the end of the railroad track and wait till 12 o'clock would come and wave as soon as that train would come, because it was right next to it. And we'd just run and think it was so funny. And it's just the simple things that we did in the summertime there. Yeah. And it was so much fun. And then I'd come back to San Diego and my mom's just go. So fast life and then slow life. And so I struggled with trying to have that balance, because coming home with my mom, she worked 3 jobs. She was like graveyard shift to jumping up. Okay, we got to go. You guys, let's get ready. You got to go to school. And she'd wake us up last minute. She's dressed for work, but she'd wake us up last minute. So we're like, and you're like,
panic.
You panic. Yeah. And it would drive me nuts. And then my mom, I mean, she was single mom, so never got to read a book to us. Like, I don't remember sitting down with her doing homework or anything like these things that you would watch on TV, right? So, of course, for me, I was like, I don't even want to think about kids till I'm 30. And maybe I'll think about it. But here I am 25 now, and I'm about to have a child. So I was like, I don't want to be like that. I want to be home. So I wanted the 9 to 5. I wanted the structure, and I wanted to make sure that was in my daughter's life. So that's where I just pivoted and was like, I'm going to go to the bank and see if they hire me. And I did. And so I think it was an influence of the workaholics that were in my family, just working hard. And for me, working hard, I think if I look back at me being a young person, was working hard meant I'm adding value, and that I'm appreciated. And so it just kind of built this, possibly an overachiever or OCD. I don't know what it is, but like my daughter says you're type A. I said, no, I'm not. I just know what I like. Yeah. I'm not a type A, you know, but I just feel I've always been, you know, like if you've you find something where it's at, you put it back where it's at. If you open
Everything
the door,
has
you
a
close
place.
the door. There's a place for everything and everything in its place. I used to say that all the time. Yes. And, and I was very big on getting down to my kids' level to show them respect and to talk to them and to make them feel seen, because these are things that, again, right, you're not a mother yet, but like things that I saw that I wanted as a child. I wanted to make sure my kids had that. And being in the moment, I would be in my heels till 9:00 at night sometimes, because I go straight to the room. How was your day? What was your highlight? What was your low light? What was your, like every day I wanted to make them feel like they mattered. And that was just kind of a big part of my influence subconsciously, I guess, that I'm bringing out with my kids, so it was interesting.
Well, I think it's safe to say that when your grandbabies are older,
my God, everything.
They are, I can't wait to talk about them. But when they get older, they're going to be like, Grandma, what do they call you?
Grandma.
Grandma?
Oh, yeah. I did not want grandma. No, I want grandma.
Grandma still works. Grandma. So the things that you're saying about your mom.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an incredible value to, it's something that you don't really see, I think, in this day and age.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's so important because as much as being on full survival mode, it still builds our character, and it still builds you and your business and everybody else around you.
You tie it into everything. Like, if I think about my thoughts on a daily basis, it's constantly about my family, the business, where I'm going to go. I'm forward thinking. I try to be in the present, but I can't be in the present without planning for tomorrow.
Right.
And so, and it heavily is influenced by my kids, their ages, where they're going to be. And I'm trying to map that out. Like, it's every day.
Right.
Like, I mean, like my thoughts just wake me up. I woke up at 2 a.m. and I'm like, okay, so if I do this, I like to maximize the hours of my day.
Right.
So if, and usually between 2 and 5 a.m., that's my only alone time.
Right.
Otherwise, my phone's blowing up, and I'm like, oh shit. Text from her at 5:45 in the morning. Morning.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
we're up.
So it's but that's my only time that I don't have to like. It's
worry
just
about
what
it's
I'm
just
focusing
you.
on here. Yeah, it's
And how long
we
did
all
you?
need you. That's what happens.
Exactly.
Everybody wants a piece of her, and a lot of what. That's the only time that nobody's asking for her other than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, my employees, they were like, holy cow, Jolene, how do you do this all day? Like, it's a drive-through of family or friends. Jolene here? Nope. Okay. Like my mom, like I'm my mom's ATM. Like, she'll pull up and she's just like, oh, and and I'm like, so it's just
all day.
I think it's in our culture, like obviously, right? Mexican culture. I'm like, it's a lot of that, family-based as well. It's a lot of I make myself, I want to be accessible. I don't want to ever be unapproachable to anybody. But I do always walk and talk, and I have learned walk and clean. And what's that? There's a time to lean, there's a time to clean, I mean, if we're standing, like, you need to be doing something, So I didn't have a chair inside of my shop for the longest time, because I'm like, there's no reason to sit. Like, there's always something to do in a flower shop.
Yeah.
100%.
Totally.
And she always shows everybody that no matter, even if she is the owner, she's the boss, and she's the one that's everything. She doesn't stop working and alongside of you.
Totally. Yeah.
She will take out the trash. She would.
Oh yeah, there's no task.
I'm no different.
No.
And I'm very big on that. I don't even think about that. I had one employee that would, hey boss, and I'm like, don't call me boss.
Yeah.
That is just like, it is cringy for me, like I don't know. I don't see it as that. I just see it as like, this is what I love, and I'm no different than you. And I want to show you what I know the same way it was shown to me, and I want that to always be part of who I am. Like, I don't even think about it. It's just second nature. Like, there's just no reason to. Like, I feel like I was given a natural gift, and the gift is to be shared, not to be kept. And that's what life's about, I feel. You know? So.
And how long were you at the bank?
20 years.
20 years.
I stayed there 20 years. For the first 20 years, 13 of those, I still stayed as a seasonal employee at my previous flower shop.
Wow.
So on Mother's Day and Valentine's Day, because I ran that, and she knew that I was I knew it. And I couldn't leave it completely.
Right.
So, and my daughter got to actually be a part of that when she was 9, 10 years old. And I used to always tell them their entire life, one day when I own a flower shop, when I get old and I have a flower shop, I used to always say that. And so it was really cool because the day I bought the flower shop and I went home, my son's like, Mom, it really hit me. Like, how cool is that? Like, you've always said our whole life, one day when you get a flower shop, and like, you actually did it. I've never known anybody that actually did what they set out to do. And I'm like, but I didn't really set out. It was just how the universe aligned for me like that. And I think when you believe in it and you talk about it and you're just constantly like putting it out there, you're subconsciously making the pathway for you to be there. You know,
Right.
Even all my years in the banking, the 20 years of banking, I couldn't have done it 15 years ago because I wasn't ready. Like
Right.
the universe hadn't prepared me for that yet.
Right.
The last 8 years of me in my banking, I was all commercial. So I was helping business owners scale their business, getting a business loan, doing all of those things where their strengths and weaknesses were, to where now, fast forward, I was able to implement that
Right.
and remind myself of those weaknesses. And so I think that's what also kept me afloat in what I did and how to, the first 2 years was survive. The next few years was sustain. And then now it's like, grow.
And how has it been for you turning that corner now? That knowing that you don't have, because you've lived most of your life on survival.
I feel like I still do, honestly.
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm ever gonna not be on fight or flight because I'm challenging myself constantly. And if I just like, I don't ever want to relax. I don't ever want to settle. I just feel like there's no time. When I feel I'm getting a little complacent, I'm like, what else can I do? I mean, I'm thinking of inventions when I'm in the bathroom. I was going to say, but when I'm going to the bathroom, you know, I'm constantly like, I need to invent this. Like just the other day, I was like, you know what I want to invent is, you see weddings all the time. There is no right way for a florist to carry in the bridal bouquets. There's no like little holder. They're usually in a box or like they're carrying it one by one. I'm like, I want to invent something pretty, something that's just, presentation is everything for me.
Right.
Aesthetics is everything. So like, why can't we come up with something like this with some holes and like make it pretty only for brides? So we come in the room and not just with this box or a crate, you know, like,
Right.
And so I'm thinking, fuck, we've been in business all these years, floristry, and we don't even have that. So
Right.
why
No one has thought
aren't
about
we
it
thinking
yet.
of that? You know,
Right.
or like the hat box. Like there's all these inventions that I'm always like,
keep that to yourself.
but my husband, ooh, that's so
Oh,
weird.
your husband, which I can't wait to talk about.
That's so weird to say. But he's like, can you just focus on this one thing? Like you're always thinking of something else. I'll never be able to see you if you do another business. So
Right.
I'm like, I know, but the thought is there, and you know,
And
I
she
mean,
can do it. She's capable.
there's just a lot of things that that always come to mind, and I feel like, you know, I'll rest when I die.
Yeah. And how now, well, first you just got married, so congratulations.
Yes, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And when we met, we hadn't met this gentleman yet.
No,
And we had no idea he was in the trajectory yet.
no.
And we met during COVID.
Yes.
And
So he came September 21.
yes.
Yeah, he was still kind of COVID, the latter part of it.
Yes,
but it
because
was
I
still COVID.
remember I left February of 21 and I would come back and forth.
Yeah.
And of course, I'd come by and say hi.
Yeah.
And you're like, we got a man. And I'm like,
know.
what? Like, tell me all about this man. And now we're married.
Yeah, now we're married.
And how has it been? Because I think I remember at the time, like, I mean, you're very structured. Like, everything has a place,
Yeah,
right? How
yeah.
has it been for you now married? Do you guys, I'm assuming you live with him now, right?
Now I live with him. Yeah,
Okay.
we'd been together for 4 years.
Uh-huh.
He kept making space in the closet in the room and just move in. And I'm like, no. And I'm like, you know, it was just being so, and I hate saying independent, but it is what I am, you know. But just, I think it's a lot of lifetime. You want to rely on people. You want to like believe that they'll be there. And I just relied on myself, you know,
Right.
and I was like, I'm going to see myself through. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure I don't ever have to, you know, worry about it. Again, I saw my mom going through a lot of stuff. And so for me, it was just a resilience and a pride that it kind of evolved. I didn't realize I did, but it was so hard to move into his house in June. I finally moved in June.
To
and
be
I was
vulnerable.
like, oh, this isn't my stuff. You know, I mean, I had a mermaid coffee table. Like, come on. Like, you know, like I had my girl things. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I got to move into like a
That was like my
house.
sister Jeanette. She was like pregnant and married, and we're like, Jeanette, you have to move up 3 blocks. Carl's just built a house for you. And she's like, but why?
I know.
Like, why can't I just live down the street still? I'm like, because you're married, girl.
I pulled up like these stories, like, yeah, there's a husband and wife. They live across the street from each other and they go to house for dinner every night, you know, but like, I want my things, you know, and yeah, you and I'm like, now I know why Lucille Ball and Ricky had 2 different twin beds. And like, you know, my mind just starts going.
Yeah.
But there is a sense of like ownership of your own things that you worked hard for and you built. And so it was really hard for me to move in, and still like, I mean, for almost 4 years, I was living out of a bag in my car, changing my clothes, going home,
the worst?
swapping out.
I can't stand
and I'm there
like,
6 days a week.
It gets old, like after a while, like living out of a bag. Like it's exhausting.
It was exhausting, and I didn't realize. I'm like, so little by little, I've been able to kind of, in hindsight, breathe more and feel like, whoa, I was just, how did I do that? You know, but I was doing it.
Okay.
So when I moved in there, it was really an adjustment because Brian, before me getting married to him, I think that was where I realized I could do life with this person, right? I hadn't moved in with him yet, but it was around January, February. He's having problems with his father, you know, being ill and what have you, and him flying back and forth to East Coast. So there was a lot of hard life happening with us. Yeah. And in that process, I think I was able to let my guard down more with him as well, because now my dad had recently been diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. So we're both leaning on each other for this. And in our weak moments and in our strong moments, it was like a teeter-totter. Like he was for me and then I was for him. He was for me and I was for him. And it was a nice balance. And it wasn't so much about outside world or anything. It was about now what mattered. And it was about family and our kids and holiday and birthday and skipping that because this is more important. And in that, I started to let him in my world more, because for the longest time, he didn't know a lot of the struggles that I deal with. Like I supplement my mom, you know, for her income. I help my family doing other, like there's things that I do that I never bother to share because I'm like, this is my family. This is my problem.
Exactly.
You don't need to worry about it. Like, this is mine. I don't want you to feel like you have to help me and I'm good.
There's that defense mechanism right there. Yeah.
And so I did a lot of that, where when he finally, you know, he's starting to feel left out or not appreciated or not valued or part of my life. And how can we be a couple if I'm not a part of your life? And I'm like, you don't need to worry about it.
But here you want this man, like your grandpa, to come in and scan the fridge and go to the store and all that. No. But the poor guy can't even walk in through the door because you're like, this is my sanctuary. This is like my place, essentially.
No,
right?
It was a battle. Yeah. It was, and I saw him wanting to help. But then again, because of his things that he's grown up with and his issues, right, of where his trust issues or whatnot from past relationships, had positioned him to immediately guard up too. Right. Well, you know, even as far as putting in an umbrella at my shop, and I'm like, I got it. And he's like, and I'm like, no, I got it. Like, I'm doing all this, right? Because I've always done all of it. So there was this battle of me being 49, 50, and he's 54, 55, living our life this long on our own. Right. And he was a single father raising his kids. His wife left him with a 3-year-old and his son is now 24, but he raised him on his own. So he's done the mother-father role as I have. So we've both, you know, and, but we talked about it. And not until when he lost his father, I realized, you know what, I need to all or nothing. I just turned 50. I'm not going to go another year being a fiance, and I need to let him go because he's all about wanting to be married. He was the one that wanted it. I can care less. I was like, I'm good. We could be in a 25-year-long relationship. Totally. I don't need to get married.
Yeah. Like, I'd come see you. I'm like, when's the wedding? You're like, girl.
Yeah. Everybody would say, you're a runaway bride. The ring looks good on your hand, but I don't think you're going to get married.
It's stunning. Let's take a moment for it. Thank you. Yeah, it was beautiful. It's so beautiful. But I was like, no, I'll be fine. But then I really had to look within and say, like, yeah, like people are, because Brian, I started to see not pain, but like he was just like, babe, if you don't want to get married, it's fine. Like, I don't want you to feel obligated. And I'm like, what are you talking about? No, I do. And I'm like, we never talk about it, right? It was just this ring on my hand now.
2-3 years later. But I could see it was weighing on him because all of his friends and new people that he's running into, when did you get married? And, oh, it's soon. We were 18 months past our wedding date, which was scheduled for 18 months ago. And so I was like, you know what? I owe this man either to let him go or to really put in my all and be completely here for him. And so I started to be more vulnerable and letting him in my world more and in on my problems more and kind of seeing how he was going to handle them. And he stepped up for all of them, you know, and when his father, when he went through that, and then it just like we had this growth spurt that happened between March and June, where in June I was like, now I'm talking about it, not to him, but to myself. I mentioned it to Gracie. Gracie's like, yeah, do it. You know, like it's a shit or get off the pot. And, you know, and so I was like, you know what? So then in July.
We need friends like you.
Yeah. And I told Brian, I said, you know what? He was about to leave and he was at the airport. And I said, babe, when you get back, let's talk about getting married. And he's like, well, okay. And I was like, but we need to do it soon. I don't want to get married at 51. 50 is a good age. It's 50.
Yeah.
And I go, I can't do it around January, February because Valentine's Day. So, and then my
Here
birthday.
she comes.
And I'm also, we need to do it December. And he's like, December? Well, that's in 5 months. And I was like, I know. He's like, babe. And I was like, we could do it.
Yeah.
And then, so we planned it and we did it December 14th. And it turned out to be his father's birthday, December 14th. And it was beautiful. And 405, because he's a Yankee fan. So he had to have it at 405.
Oh my God.
And so, you know, that's what happened. And so it was freaking 5 months of just, I don't even know how we did it.
But you did it. Here's the thing. If there's anybody that's going to plan a wedding in 5 months, it's you.
Yeah.
And I got to ask, like, how did you find out, like, he was the one? Was there an experience? Because I feel like on the opposite end, there's something that happens when we decide somebody's not for us, right? Just like on the opposite end, there's something that happens that it's like, you look at that person and you're like, oh shit, this is my person. Do you remember
I do. And
what was it?
I remember. So with Brian, we're all imperfect, right?
1,000%.
And so I was like, I think, and it's funny because everybody has always said, what is your type of guy? Because I don't have a type. Right?
Yeah.
I speak, all my guys have all looked so different from one another. They've all come, they just are. But I'm a sapio lover. I have to be intrigued by your brain and your thoughts and not so much the looks or like what you do. Like, yeah, you got to be a good human. There's certain things I don't like, but you got to choose and know your non-negotiables.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yes.
And know what those are.
Right.
And if you're in tune with those are and you're consistent with them and it doesn't change every 6 months and has nothing to do with the looks, I've always said since I was 18, I remember saying, I want to marry somebody, if I ever get married, that if I lose an eye or lose a leg or anything like that, that they can lead me in the right direction and guide me. Because at the end of the day, it's when you grow old together.
Right.
And so that was my thought.
They say, who's going to reach over and give you that glass of water?
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll tell you, and I remember thinking this back in June when I'm going through my own mental list before I actually told him and verbalized to Gracie or to him, I think I want to do this. I think you know what? What's the worst that can happen? Why not? And so I'm sitting there and I'm watching him. Brian has never in 4 years stopped courting me. Every morning brings me a cup of coffee like he did this morning. Every single morning he puts whipped cream when I tell him not to because I'm on a diet, and he still puts whipped cream or a scoop of ice cream, and he like makes. He's like, no, babe, but but he's never stopped courting me. He always opens up my door every day. It didn't stop after a year, and it didn't stop after 3 years or 4 years. It didn't stop after we got married, and I wake up before he goes to bed. He'll have, even if he's upset with me, he'll have my cup of water with a straw in it. And he'll have that next to my bed. He'll have my cup of coffee in the morning, and he'll have it next to me every night. And he'll get my gummy bears, or he just does these little things that make me feel seen and never forgotten all throughout the day.
Right.
Like it could be some random little, he just got me a new phone case, he just thinks of me. And the courting has been something that I feel was the first thing I noticed. Like, I want somebody that you always feel you get a smile when you're going to see them, and you're laying next to them at night, and nobody else may know or understand what it is, but you guys have an unspoken connection, and right. Like you could be silly together and poke each other's butt. Like, we cannot go upstairs without finger up the butt, like, all the time. I don't know what it is. Like, you go first, and we're like holding our butt, like, you know, and it's just like, but like, we're playful and we're serious, and we're both like, we could talk business. Like, there's just a lot of all the dynamics that I love. And he's very spontaneous. I like somebody that can just, let's go in the car and go for a cruise up the coast. Let's go grab a coffee and just go for a drive. Like, those are the things that, like, I love. And he's never stopped doing them. And he was already like that as well. So, but there's things that piss me off about him too. But again, it's your non-negotiables. It's not a deal breaker.
No, and my shrink, which I'm going to bring on at some point. I'm so excited for my shrink to come on. But she always told me, it's not about, you know, could you, whether you don't like it or not, it's could you live with it? It's when the rubber meets the road, can you tolerate it? And for a long time, for me, I struggled with, like, I have to accept them. And I had to learn the hard way that accepting doesn't mean you have to be okay with it. Right. It just means that you can, like, tolerate it.
So I'll tell you, with Brian, there was things that, anything that I did bring to his attention when I started to share, right? I'm not I internalize my feelings. If somebody pisses me off, I'm not a confrontational person. So I step back, I analyze, I will break it down 100 different ways. And then I kind of think to myself, was it worth it? Is it going to eat me up? No, I'm fine. And then I'll come back around. But I went through a whole battle breakup and everything in my head, and then I'm back.
Right.
You know,
we're back together.
I won't address it. And so that's how I've always handled it. That's with friendships. That's with anything. I've never had a blowout with my friends. I've never had but when it comes down to when I do voice what I feel,
that's love.
I will say it. And, but it's always coming with a common ground. It's always not like, well, you did it. Like, that's never been my style. Like, it's a conversation, how we're going to grow past this. And so and Brian was a whole different type of communication. Oh my God. That guy would talk to me till 5 a.m. But why? Why don't you listen to me? Why don't you do that? And but why did I do this? And I'm just like,
well, and that could be stemming from his traumas, right?
100% it was.
Not feeling heard and
100%.
understood.
So I told him, I said, if we're going to get married, we need a counselor.
Yeah.
I said, because me raising my kids at my age, and you raising yours up until your age, we can't come together at this point of our lives and think we're going to have it your way or my way.
No.
We need a middle ground, and we need somebody else to help us get through that. Right. And he's like, I don't want counseling. I don't want that. And I'm like, well, then you're not going to have a marriage. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
But when we did go to the counseling session, the first one, she said, Brian, we need 12 weeks alone.
Oh,
and I was like, peace out.
Yeah. See you, sucker.
See you in 12 weeks. But no, it was really good. And there was a lot of things that needed to be worked through.
Right.
But it didn't take long. And what it was with Brian, what I really felt was that crossover was everything that I brought to him when I did start to vocalize what I was feeling. He worked on and made it better. Never once did he not say, well, that's you and da-da-da-da. Never.
Wow.
He just said, okay.
Well, the fact that he even committed to the 12 weeks, I think is a big deal, especially in the older age, especially men. Let me just
100%.
start. Men don't want to go to therapy. No. They don't want to talk. The only person they're going to talk to is God, and good luck, right? Yep. So I think that it's so important that he showed that commitment, not only to you, but also to himself. Yeah. You know, it's committing to that 12 weeks to then not only be a better man, but a better spouse, a better father, a better human being, maybe, you know, to be able to communicate. And that's one thing that, same thing, my boyfriend, like I wouldn't say I'm a better communicator. I just have more experience. I have the experience with the shrink. That I'm like, okay, we have to remember we're fighting against the problem. It's you and me against the problem. It's not one against the other. And there's a reason why God made us with one mouth and 2 ears so we can fucking listen.
Yes.
You know, that's so, it's so important. I mean, if you really think about it, you know, and I can see that in you where you're not confrontational, but you are very like, the moment your eyes wake up, you're already thinking of
I'm methodical things. With everything. My thought, what I'm going to say. And even when I would sit there and he'll talk for 2 hours and I'm just not talking. He's like, and you're not even talking. Oh, I don't even know what you're thinking. And he just gets so, and I'm worked like, up. I'm not going to.
Poor guy.
Because for me, like, unless I have anything to say or like I really take it all in, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to speak on emotion.
Right. Well, and it's got to be productive.
Yeah.
And I think that's when couples argue, that's half the battle is that person listening.
Yeah.
If we're not going to listen and we're just going to point fingers and we're not going to be receptive, like why even bother?
100%. That's why for me, I did 22 years with my previous relationship, my kid's father, where I did a lot of that at a young age. I did like the wasted energy I felt. And he was an alcoholic. So it was like a lot of times he's wasted. And I'm like, why am I even wasting my breath?
Right.
You know? And so there was years of me reading self-help books, listening to Dr. Laura in my car at 11 a.m. I'd take my 11 a.m. lunch because she's going to be on AM radio. And so there was a lot of things that I didn't have anybody to go to, right? I had to figure it out myself. Right. So I always, everything that I did, everything in my life, I teach myself. I will resource, I will figure it out, and I'm going to come back better and stronger, and I'm going to figure out how to get there, no matter what it is, whether it's work or business or relationships. And so I remember even with my kid's father, when he was drinking, I never argued in front of the kids with him in the house. It was like, all right, guys, as soon as I'd see him, hey, let's go to SeaWorld. Let's go to the library. And I'd leave with the kids and we'd go to the library and like, hey guys, we have to be quiet. And I'd go to the library on the times when I'm really upset and I really wanted to cry and I couldn't talk. So I'd go to the library because that was quiet time and the kids knew that. So I didn't have to talk with them. So I'm like, pick out a book and sit right here. And meanwhile, I'm grabbing 10 self-help books and I'm reading them next to them. And I'm just like, okay, but I prepared myself. So there's a lot of stuff from that relationship that I knew in all my others, the next relationships, I wasn't going to bring that over. No. I was tired of that. And I've always grown, but I don't regret any of past relationships because I feel like it gets you where you're supposed to be. It defines what you want, who you are, you know? And so there's no regret with that. I actually appreciate it all, you know? And so with Brian, it was just the fact that he continues to grow and me too. And
he's supportive. He's so supportive.
Very supportive
of your
with
business.
my family, my kids. He just takes them all on. He does his own, like, he's a very loving person. He's complicated, but very loving. And I say that because he had a hard life himself.
Right.
You know, ex-pro boxer. And so he's real rough around the edges. From the East Coast, Newark, New Jersey.
Oh my
so,
gosh.
like, trust me, I thought he was yelling at me when I first met him. And I'm like I'm not talking. No, stop yelling at me. What do you mean? I'm not even fucking yelling. I'm like, so why are you cussing? Like, why are you cussing him? Like, I wasn't a big cusser.
From Newark, New Jersey, so I know.
Oh my God, girl! I met his mom, and I was like, oh my God, they're all like this. She's like, oh, fuck off, and I'm like, she just told her son. Like, you know, and so for me, it was different. Like, ask Gracie. I used to tell her, don't cuss so much. You know, ladies, like, I'm not a big cusser, you know, and so.
Every other word in my mouth is bucket.
And so I just was like that. But it's funny because growing up, a lot of people would be like, oh my God, you'd be so fun to party with. And I'm like, I'm really a prude. Like, I feel like I'm like, I would be like, because I have a lot of energy, but like, I pass out at 9:00 at night.
Yeah.
Like, I'm an early morning.
Yes. You're at the gym.
I'm at the gym. I'm a 4 a.m. like person. And like, even when I was little, like I was that kid, they would say like, I'm in the mailbox flipping it up. Can you come out and play? And they're like, can you tell Jolene not to come over before 7 a.m.?
Yeah,
like,
we're sleeping.
Saturday morning, I'm like,
you're like,
and I'm impatient.
Clock. Yeah.
Like, you know, but it was just, mornings to me are just like, I always say I'm solar powered, like, bing, like, you know, the sun's up. Totally. And I don't know, it's new day, new opportunity. I've always felt that. And it's beautiful, you know, like night is like, my brothers used to say nothing good happens after midnight. And girls don't belong out after 11. And I'm like, and I would, trust me, I'm listening to their conversations
saying
in the room. I'm like, I do not want to be that topic. So anyway, it was just, it's funny. A lot of the things that you pick up as a kid along the way, you know, you kind of build it into your life. I was very mindful of that, but there's no rule book. You don't know. And I was always afraid of failing at life, you know, like, I don't know why.
You have to fail.
I know.
In order to fail,
100%. And I tell my kids now, it's like, you don't know what love is without pain and loss, without, you know, all of that comes, like, you have to have the polar opposite in order to appreciate it.
Exactly.
Like, it's just life. And so, and it's really hard, I mean, to explain that to kids going through these things these days, especially the 20-year-old generation, you know, but you got to embrace the loss, embrace even the loss of friendships, because it's just growing pains. That's all it is.
And I would imagine as a mom, it's you don't want your kids to feel the pain, so you try to help them avoid it.
No, I'm actually not like that.
Okay.
I'm not.
I'm glad to hear that, because most parents are. They try to protect.
Yeah.
They try to protect and keep it in a bubble.
My mom did that a lot. My mom still to this day does that with my older brother, and also tries to do that. She doesn't do it so much with me, but with my grandkids.
Because she knows that you got it.
Yeah, and I feel like there's, but there's definitely a sense of when my kids were younger, what I protected them from was the arguments with their dad that I avoided. But I realized that in a sense backfired when they got older, because when they were 13, 14, my son's like, I don't remember dad being drunk. I don't remember, because I would take him to the room and be like, oh, he doesn't feel good tonight. Let's go sleep in the room.
Yeah.
I avoided the elephant in the room and with my kids. So they didn't experience seeing that. They remember moments of it, but they don't remember it being every day.
Right.
And for me, I would like, I'll be right back. I'd go in the house, make sure it's all clear, then get them out of the car. I was just, and then I'm going to work the next day to be a cheerleader for 17 of my staff, because I was a manager at the bank. So I'm like, oh, hey guys, everything stopped at that door. I was like, like problems out here. I'd go in, I'm a cheerleader, and nobody knew what I was dealing with. But for me, I'm like, I got to move up. I got to move up. I got to move up, because he might die, and I'm going to be raising these kids on my own anyway. I'm already doing it. Like, I need to make sure I'm up here so I can make my own schedule, so I can be off on this day to take them to school here, because he can't. Like, I mapped everything out.
Right.
Even though he was at home, but I'm still the single mother. Know. There was a reason and structure for everything I did in my career, because I was preparing for worst case scenarios, always.
Well, I think that survival is always, you're just waiting for the shoe to drop.
Always.
All the time.
Yeah. I mean, even now, I'm like, okay, Trader Joe's might be opening across the street. What if they buy this out? Okay, I got to be prepared for that. What's my next move? Like, I'm just, my brain is constant fireworks, but I just don't want to be left not prepared.
Right.
And even anybody should be unprepared.
Correct. I think transparency is crucial.
Yeah.
But can you think about all the things that you didn't know about, where, like, for example, like all the things that you, like your father's, your kid's father, right? Mark. If you knew that he was an alcoholic at the beginning, how would that have changed?
I was so naive in the beginning, I'll tell you. Mark was like a summer flame. Oh my God. Like he was just summer like this. So again, I played it really safe. My boyfriend before him, I was with Matt for 4 years. Like we worked out. We'd get up at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. We'd go to the gym every day, 5 days a week. And then the weekends, we were like your kind of Blue Lagoon relationship, right? Like we were very young and playful, and we would go on the weekends. Friday nights, we're watching National Geographic. Sunday night was Dateline. Saturdays, we're going to Home Depot buying palm trees and collecting palm trees and planting them. We were very into each other and not into going out and partying or any of that, right? And riding our bikes and just nature. And that was like a thing, going to, to the pet store and getting aquatic turtle food, and just very young-minded. But why we broke up was because he had never had another relationship. And so his mother died, no influence of a female, no sisters, no any female. I mean, first date, he's eating with his fingers like Tarzan, like spaghetti, okay? Yeah. We broke up because I said, if we're going to be together and get married in the future, you need to date other girls to understand I'm not high maintenance. Because the first year, I didn't get anything for Valentine's Day or birthday. Second year, I did. Third year, he's like, oh, you do it every year? I'm like, So you need to go find a relationship, so that way you can grow, know what it is. But we'll be together, right? Like we'll come back, but we'll take the summer off. Well, I meet this guy, Mark, who was coming to the flower shop and just, pursuing. And then, and he was like first bad boy, but to me, he was like the cool guy, where it's so funny because I think about it. Cool guy who has a tab at the liquor stores. That's not a cool guy.
Oh man.
He had tabs at every liquor store down in Mission Beach. Yeah. Everybody knew him. He could get into a bar for free. Yeah. Like he was Mr. Party Guy, but hello, like he's 7 years older than me. He was 27, I was 21. And I was working the 3 jobs at the time. And so I would only see him like when I'd get out of work from the flower shop around 9:30 for like an hour. Maybe I'd stop by, say hi. And then I thought, and then I'd go home, but I didn't know they're just going out at 10:30 at night for the night. I was so naive, right? Plus these are all guys from PB. And so fast forward, summer's ending now. And I'm like, why is he still drinking at 10 a.m.? Okay. And now like, it's like, I don't know, September, and we're at a barbecue and I hear, he's partying, all this stuff, like just beach boy partying, right? Hardcore. Jumps out of the car. I hear, pick me up in 30 minutes. And I'm like, forget him. This guy, I don't know what to do, right? Totally different lifestyle, than what I was used to.
Right.
And I get a call that he had overdosed and he was in the hospital. Gosh. And when it used to be a hospital in Mission Bay. And I was like, what? And in the 30 minutes, he had gone into a home and ended up ODing. They took him to the emergency room. He was on life support for a week. That's how I first met his mom. I'm in the waiting room. Like, I was just like, what is going on here? I went into the chapel. Because they gave me all his belongings, and I put his picture in there. It was a picture he had of us. And I said, I prayed. I'm like, God, please, like, I just want to go back to my normal life. This is not what I want. And so, but he woke up. And when he woke up, I slept there every night because we didn't know how he was going to be. And when he woke up, he asked for me. And his mom said, yes, she can go back there because you had to be family to go in ICU. And he had tubes all out of him. And he said, please don't leave me. I'll get sober. Please don't leave. And I was like, okay, I'll stay for a little bit. Yeah. That was it. And I ended up staying 22 years. We had 2 kids. And it was really hard because it was not what I had planned at all. It just wasn't what I planned. But, I was naive in what I thought was an alcoholic, or like, I just didn't know what was excessive. And, but again, I don't regret it. I absolutely don't regret it because I was so naive. I mean, I would walk down the street and say hi to strangers and be like, hi, how's it going? And he gave me a lot of street smart, a lot of like grit, a lot of that ambition to really work hard, not because he empowered me, but because there was no other choice for me. Yeah. And so that gave me that like, okay. And I just always leveled up. And if I'm in a position for a year, I'm going to level up. I'm not going to stay stagnant. And I tell my son the same thing. I tell him like, no, you're not going to stay at a job that's easy. You're not going to come work for me because it's easy or your dad. You need to get a job and earn your stripes. And you don't settle. You always level up. Next year, level up. Call your insurance company on the first of every year and you call and see if they can do something better for you. Like, you don't stay complacent in life. And I grill them on that because of fear, not because I'm like, oh, it works out. Like, it's like, I don't want them to have that struggle. I want to know that if I pass away, that they're going to have that struggle, that fight, and that ambition. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. We went way off topic. But
no, you're good. That Mark story, I think, really changed the trajectory, because I think that we just, we have one and we have the other. Yep. Like, you have the guy that was like structured and all the things, but didn't have the life experience. But then you also have the wild child that taught you all this. So it's smarts. So crazy. Like, even being a woman, right? Being a lady, that was something in my relationship with Mark. I never was treated like, it was like, I was very, playful, and just like my brothers treated me like I was just like up here, so like, and all their friends did too. And so being with somebody like Mark, who is, if I'm laughing loud or if I'm saying a silly joke, he'd be like, oh, calm down, simmer down. Like, you're acting like a fool, and I'm like, and then little by little, that chipped away at my personality. Yeah. And I remember being so serious all the time. And I remember my mom telling me, God, you're just like Mark. And I'm like, I don't understand that comment, because for me, I was like, I'm just taking care of business. I'm just taking care of the house. But it was just definitely with Mark, something that I felt was, I wanted to make sure there's no rule book or anything that can prepare you to be with an alcoholic or be in a relationship like that. But I lost a lot of friends along the way. I didn't lose them because I'm still friends with them, but I disappeared for a while. Yeah. Because you are dealing with the embarrassment, the shame, the guilt. The first few years, no.
people are giving you advice. And then when they see you're still in that situation, that you're like, I'm embarrassed to tell them, I don't want to talk about it anymore. And so then it becomes a non-conversation. And then you're turning down invites. And then all of a sudden you don't get invited anymore. And then I'm just like, okay, it's about my kids and I don't care about that. And, so there's a lot of this that comes with it. But how do I teach my kids to not being around this or to have this in their future? Now, that's where Al-Anon meetings, AA meetings for me, I'm trying to do anything to understand. Because in my mind, I'm like, no, just if you love life and you love God, like, just you'll be okay. And it wasn't that easy. And then fully understanding the disease and what it is, that was me going to Al-Anon meetings and understanding that. And I remember standing in the back shadows of a meeting and I'm like not wanting to go in, but I'm listening outside the door, until somebody goes to the bathroom and they told me, they're like, you want to come in? I'm like, oh no. And then I leave. I'm like, no, I don't want to be there. What if I know somebody? What if this? And so there's a lot of that. So then I'm looking for meetings in other area codes, zip codes, and I go there. And then when I finally decided to creep in the room, I hear this lady.
Sorry. It's okay.
I just remember hearing this lady saying how when she was a child, her father, how it was with her mom and people knocking on the door to come over to play and her mom saying, no, nobody's here, don't talk, and so they wouldn't answer the door and then and it was just to avoid the alcoholic in the house, the embarrassment. Right. And she said, my father passed away and she said, and now I'm doing the same thing. And she was like almost 60 years old.
Wow.
And mind you, at the time I was like 32 and I'm watching her going, well, she's talking about when she was a child. And then now she's repeated that pattern.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to be that person.
Right.
I don't want to be that. I don't want to have that for my kids.
Yeah.
So, so then I started CODA, and that's kids and children of alcoholics, right? And dependents. And so I wanted my kids to be a part of it and to understand. And I mean, I drove my kids to Twain. I'm like, you end up doing this is where you're going to end up going to school. Like I was very vocal about what can happen to them. And I said, just be responsible if you're going to drink. And my son would say, Mom, when I grow up, he was 4 years old. Mom, when I grow up, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be happy with my wife. And I'm not, and I was like, and I remember looking at him in the mirror and I'm like, no, honey, listen, your dad loves you. I said, he loves us. And I said, and all I ask of you is to be responsible. You will end up probably having a drink one day because it's just how it is.
Right.
I go, but you need to be responsible in everything you do. Too much of anything is not good.
Right.
And I didn't want to give him the whole overload of it. I was trying to keep it kid level. And then as they got older, I still continued that. And then, but my kids were perfect. Never went to, my daughter called me in her junior year. I was like, Mom, can you pick me up? She's like, they're smoking pot here. And she was at a party in OB and I'm like, they are? Oh my God. But that's just how it was. Yeah. But my kids grew up never doing any of that. And I never had a problem with them. And I was so blessed. I felt like God gave me these kids because he knew all the trouble I was gonna have with their dad.
Right.
But we were each other's best friends. And but I always told them, I will never be your friend first.
Right.
I'm your mother first. So I don't want to, there's certain things I don't want to talk about with them that I just felt like have respect and that boundary, and that's just how I was with my kids. But the whole Mark situation and growing up young and being naive and, it was really hard. But again, I'm so grateful for all of that. I was the first person he called a couple of years ago to say, I have 3 months left to live.
Oh,
I actually gave Brian back his ring because I told him, I said, this is my kid's father. Brian and him couldn't stand each other in the beginning.
I would imagine.
Yeah. Mark's cussing him out. It was just bad.
Oh my gosh.
I said, you know what? This is my kid's father. This isn't about love. This isn't about me wanting him back or anything. This is about humanity. And if you have a problem with it, then I will give you your ring back.
Yeah.
But I can't turn my back. We just had a grandchild and I said, and I want him to be a part of it. And I'm going to make his life as comfortable as possible until the end. Mm-hmm. And he ended up having Brian
2 days apart. We didn't talk. And then he came back around and said, okay. And he just stepped up and helped support it. And we even helped move Mark out of his house and moved him into my place so he could be close. Like, it was a whole shift. We all moved around, but it was,
that's some like awesome Jerry Springer shit.
it was crazy, girl. No, it was crazy. But he ended up getting a liver transplant and he lived.
Wow.
And he's, every time he gets a tattoo, I'm like, don't forget to get the cockroach because you're a fucking cockroach. I don't know how you made it. Like this guy, he's had 5 DUIs. He's been on deathbed 3 times.
Wow.
And then to get a liver transplant, like
that's like hard. Like,
this guy has been invincible, and there's a reason. And I told him, and I tell him, there's a reason God keeps saving you.
Yeah.
And you need to find that purpose, you know. But he told me on his deathbed, before he had the transplant, he cried to me and he said, I just want to apologize to you for everything that I've ever done. He said, you're my best friend.
Oh.
Yeah. He's like, I wouldn't be here without you. I mean, we literally took care of everything, his bills, moving him out, like everything. I got a GoFundMe for him. Everybody, like, it was just this whole thing that it's about humanity.
Right.
You know?
And,
so
and oh my gosh, I feel like we need like more episodes.
we need to put another date on the books.
Yeah. But before we wrap this one up, I want to emphasize your business, Bay Park Flowers. Let's talk about the location.
Yes.
Yeah. Where is it located?
It is located at 2555 Marina Boulevard in Bay Park.
Yes.
And it actually has been there since 78 and has always been a flower shop. 5 owners, and I'm the 5th one.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing, charming little flower stand in Bay Park. And I actually, for years, wanted to name it Esmia Flores, and I wanted it to just be a flower shop, like just, or a cute little name for it. Never thinking of Bay Park Flowers, but because, right, you don't know where that shop's going to be.
Right, yeah.
When it turned out to be that shop in Bay Park, I thought, this isn't my shop. This belongs to Bay Park.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be the owner, but this isn't mine. This is the community's.
Right.
And so I gave it the name Bay Park Flowers. Ironically, it was named Bay Flowers before me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was never Bay Park, which I thought was like, why not Bay Park? But anyway, so yeah, Bay Park, I just felt like it just deserved that name.
Totally.
And I'm so glad I did that because from a business perspective, communities are not going to take ownership of a business, or they'll take ownership more so if it has their name on it, because it's a pride.
Yes.
You know, it's a pride. They're like, I'm loyal to this. This is Bay Park.
Right.
And so it makes them feel like they have a sense of ownership with it as well, supporting their own local community store, whatever it is.
Even for me now that I'm also, because I don't know if I told you this, we got a place in Bay Park.
No, what the hell?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, where?
On Lieta.
Okay, at the very end.
House was on the market forever.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I know the house on the corner on the cliffside.
Corner with the big
Lee
palm tree.
Gomez used to own that home.
Oh, no way.
So Lee had a pool in the backyard.
Yes.
Yeah. So
unfortunately, we had to take the palm tree down.
That is crazy.
Because it's completely rotten. But yeah, so I'll tell you all that after this.
We need to talk about that.
But I will say, anybody that I referred, like people in Bay Park want to like keep their money in Bay Park.
They do.
They're so prideful about living in Bay Park. People just think like, oh, how far are you from Cecil's or Luch's or Bocce's or whatever? Like if you have to get in your car, then you don't live in Bay Park. Like that's how they are. But you know, my buddy Nick still, I think he still goes there, right?
Oh yeah, he does.
Yeah. Like he, ever since you made that beautiful arrangement for his mom when he was living with him back in East County, like
he comes all the time. He'll text me and be like, "Hey, Jolene," or "Hey, I got this customer," or "Hey, I got," like it's always something. But he does the same thing. A text, and I'm like, they'll have it ready for you.
Exactly.
He just gives me an idea, his price range, and he's like, "Do whatever," and that's probably like the greatest joy for us. And we take a lot of pride in that when people are like, whatever you want to do, we know it's going to be beautiful.
Right.
I love that. Yeah. And that is something where we get to just create and tell stories through our flowers.
Right.
And so I think because we don't do pre-mades and we actually create and customize for you, that's like our way of saying, we genuinely care, and that your milestone, your special occasion matters, and it's just, I hope and I believe that it differentiates us from others.
Totally.
And the fact that we just I like to always send somebody off, like educating them on the flower, or like showing them something new, or like I get constantly, I've never seen this before. What is this? And that to me is so important, because I mean, when I was 18 working at that flower shop, Kim, my old boss, had flashcards for us.
Wow.
If you didn't know your flower, you needed to go home.
Oh my gosh.
She was hardcore.
Yeah.
And she had flashcards. What's this? What's a botanical meaning? What's the floral meaning? Like, it was just like,
Oh my gosh.
But I'm so glad, because I believe strong women like that, hardcore women, the ones that people are afraid of, are just afraid of work.
Totally.
And hard women like that are the movers and shakers that you learn from.
Exactly. And what days are your shops closed?
We are closed on Mondays.
Mondays.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and we're looking at hours and what have you. So, but as it stands currently, we are open Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 6, or 10 to 5, excuse me, because it's winter.
Yeah.
And then Saturdays, 10 to 5, and Sundays, 10 to 2.
Okay. Perfect.
Closed on Mondays.
Okay. Well, thank you for
yes.
being on.
Thank you.
Until next time, guys, and be kind to someone out there. You never know who needs it.
Yes. Get them flowers.
Yes, get them flowers at Bay Park Flowers.